Tēnā koutou katoa, no mai, haere mai. Welcome to the session about the New Zealand Defence Force. I'd like to start by acknowledging the mana whenua of the area that UC is part of. Ko tēnei taku mihi ki ngā mana whenua, Aotearoa nei ko ngā tura huriri, ka mihi hoki o ki ngā tohu Aotearoa nei. Hi, my name's Dave. I'm a career consultant at UC Careers, where you can get help with all things career related, from deciding what your dream job might be to helping you succeed in securing employment, both while you're studying and when you finish your degree. We've got 40 minutes today for presentation from the New Zealand Defence Force, and we'll have 10 minutes for questions after that. But please feel free to pop any questions into the chat as they come up for you, and we'll address them at the end. I'm looking forward to hearing all about the New Zealand Defence Force, so welcome to Barb and Morgan, and thanks for being here today. Over to you guys.
Awesome, thanks so much, Dave. Have you got my shared screen up?
We do.
Okay, cool. I will start. So hello everybody. Welcome to the New Zealand Defence Force STEM presentation for the University of Canterbury. I'll just minimize it. My name is Lieutenant Morgan McIver, and with me is Flight Lieutenant Barb Finlayson. I'm a Maritime Logistics Officer and in the Navy, and she is a Learning Development Officer in the Air Force, despite what uniform she's wearing tonight. So we both currently work in defence recruiting, and we're just going to have a brief chat about defence and defence careers, and then a little bit about the STEM pathways that you could be looking at. We're going to keep this presentation nice and short, and then we'll use the rest of the time for any Q&A that you may have. But before we start, we're just going to introduce the New Zealand Defence Force. I'm just going to pop out and just quickly, sorry, before I didn't share my sound, so that's totally my mistake. So today we're going to just give you a brief overview of the three services which make up the New Zealand Defence Force, so the Navy, the Air Force and the Army. Then we'll look at the STEM careers and STEM pathways that you could potentially be looking at after graduation. We'll touch on our tertiary scholarships and what's available, and then we'll just touch over what a defence career could look like for you. And then to sum it all up, we'll go over a Q&A, and we're more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, so the New Zealand Defence Force is made up of three services. So we do have the Army, the Navy, the Air, three services, one force, and we actually are a group of highly skilled men and women who are dedicated to protecting Aotearoa in New Zealand. So we are we're New Zealand's Navy, a combat capable force, and we are ready to respond every hour of the day. Together, we work together and we stand up for what's right. We protect New Zealand's interests at sea. We support peace and security at home and abroad, and we help communities in need when emergency strikes. Now, when you're considering a service, most people will be naturally interested in a particular trade or will gravitate towards one of the three services. And if you're unsure about where you are a good fit in the Army, the Navy or Air, these are things that we can help you work through.
To give you a brief overview of the Navy, it is the maritime arm of the New Zealand Defence Force. And we currently have a fleet of 9 ships with over 2,500 personnel serving. Some of our maritime tasks include combat capability, humanitarian aid and disaster relief, fishery and border patrols, all the way through to anti-piracy and peacekeeping deployments. We also have a naval reserves, which means that you can reap the best of a career in the Navy, but you also can still hold down your full-time civilian job, or in your case, your studies. So this means that you can get the best of both worlds. And another good thing about the reserve forces is that it can give you an insight into the service, and that could also decide whether or not you want to become full-time later on.
So the New Zealand Army, so that's the land component of the NZDF. So they're boots and equipment on the ground. So we've got about 9,500 regular force soldiers serving and close to 3,000 reserve force personnel. So the Army Reserve, or TF, or Territorial, is a part-time job. So this is one we really like to promote with students. So where your full-time job is being full-time student at university, this is where you have the opportunity to do some part-time soldiering. So it's a volunteer job and we pay you when you volunteer your time. So generally the expectation is you will come to a training night once a week and or attend some weekend training or camps. So the overall commitment is about 20 days a year once you've completed your reserve training. The Air Force is our responsive and effective air power. So our primary role is to protect our national interests and is a modern and dynamic part of the Defence Force. And this is really playing out with the new capability that we've got coming, and particularly the upgrade of the P8 Orion, which I think we take possession of our first upgraded aircraft in November. So we are enabled now with the right equipment to perform primary roles such as airborne surveillance, reconnaissance, combat, and air mobility. So within the Air Force, yeah, is this still me, Morgan?
Yeah, within the NZDF, sorry.
Within the NZDF, we've got over 119 exciting roles available. So there really is a role for everyone, but we've highlighted some of the pathways that might be of interest, especially when we're looking at the world of STEM. So one that is really highlighted, especially at Canterbury University, is those that are doing engineering. So you're engineering through either two pathways, a BEng Tech or a BEng Honours. So you become our engineering officers and your role sits really squarely with Navy and Air Force. You are hands-on, overseeing all the systems, overseeing all the technicians that carry out all the work, all the repairing, diagnostic testing, and at the end of the day in the Air Force, you're the one that says that aircraft is good to go, it's good to fly. Do you want to comment on the Navy engineering roles, Morgan?
Yeah, so we've got two different engineering roles in the Navy. One's more mechanical focused, marine engineering, and one's more electrical or computer science, if you're thinking about sensors and cyber type roles, and that's the weapons engineer. And like Barb said, with an aircraft, you're the person that says that the ship is safe to sail and all the people on board can basically have faith that you know that if anything happens to the ship, you'll be able to diagnose, repair, and maintain it whilst we're at sea.
Now, a really growing area across Army, Navy and Air is our intelligence, IT and communications sphere. Now, that's a really broad heading for a lot of jobs in the Army, in the Navy, in the Air Force. So all of you who are doing communication, information, computer science, works with database, this is a really growing field in defence, and particularly if you think about warfare and what it means for security of our country. So cyber security, working in space, communication of our aircraft from air to sea to land. You people become the experts in that area. Now, there is quite a crossover between being an intelligence officer, working in IT and in communications. And depending on how your degree has been shaped, and maybe some of you may have taken papers in international relations, political science, you may have a language as well as your IT, you are a really good candidate that we can look across all those aspects of intelligence, IT and comms, and there's lots of roles there. Digging a bit further into STEM careers, we all have some of our spec roles, and the relevant one that comes under STEM are our psychs. So for all of those you that are studying psychology, either through a BA pathway, a Bachelor of Science, or even a Bachelor of Health Science or Sports Psychology, we will look at all of you as being eligible to come through and work as a psych in the Army, Navy and Air Force. So our psychs work in industrial organisational psych as opposed to clinical. And we have some new scholarships put up by the Air Force to help support an undergraduate move in and complete their master's year. So if you really want some more information on that, you can talk to me directly. Health. So one of the key roles that we have is an environmental health officer. So this is a person that will go into theatre or into an area that we're going to send soldiers, sailors and airmen, and they make sure that the area is safe and that we can go in there and live and work without being in any danger. So this is a really interesting degree that more and more people are doing. We do need you to complete that degree and then go and work in the area and have a couple of years background experience. But just knowing that there is an opportunity to bring EHO back into defence as a career is quite exciting.
And we can also talk more about these roles after. I was just making a thought before, under engineering and intelligence, IT and communications, there's about 20 to 30 different trades sitting under those, which we won't all talk about today, but more than happy to help share information afterwards.
Perfect. And then, of course, we've got the Tertiary Scholarship. So the big one that Canterbury students will be aware of probably is in the field of engineering. So we have Air Force, Army and Navy scholarships available for candidates who are about to study, are in the middle of study, or you're completing your study. So the selection is competitive, but ideally we say don't let that be a deterrent. Put your name in the hat. We then get you ready to go to an officer selection board, and you are assessed for your ability to be a good officer and also to be awarded a recipient of the scholarships. So scholarships are actually awarded on your performance at an officer selection board. So we don't decide who gets them, we just get you ready to go to a selection board, and the services then allocate the scholarships. So they're all kind of different. Some are related to different fields of study. They all offer different fields of financial support. But a lot of them sit within the STEM realm. So your IT, your comms, your engineering, and now we have scholarships for our psychs, which is exciting. So
sorry, Barb, you go.
Oh, sorry. And so if you want to be considered for that, you just submit an application online. So even if you're in the middle of your studies, first or second year at university, it doesn't matter. You can come on board and make an application, and then we will pick your application up and manage you through the process.
And if you go on the Defence Careers website, it'll have more information about the 3 schemes, what are the approved fields of study, and what we're looking for an applicant who is applying for these schemes as well. So what can a career with Defence offer you? Well, we can offer you an amazing career with multiple opportunities. We also can provide leadership and development training and give you the ability to have more than just the average 9-to-5 job. Although we've highlighted a few roles today, as mentioned before, we do have over 109 different roles available. So there really is something for everyone. But some of the benefits that a career with us can offer is that we have all our clothing provided, including our workout gear. We have access to free medical, free dental, gym nutrition, mental and physical training advice. We have access to discounted military messes, so our bars and our restaurants, social events and sporting trips. Defence offer life insurance, super schemes, trading discounts, and provide a force for families. And that's where they not only support the service person, but their families as well. And this can be through financial workshops, deployment support, and housing opportunities. And one amazing thing about the New Zealand Defence Force is that you have your job, but you also get to work in different locations around New Zealand and around the world. And this can be through deployments or overseas exchanges. And you get ongoing career progression throughout your time with Defence, whether that's ongoing study and education. So as you can see, that's just an insight of what career with Defence can offer you. But it's also really fulfilling, challenging, different, and you get to work in an environment like no other, especially not in your average 9-to-5 job. So as we said before, we're keeping it short and sweet. If you want to know more, then please visit the Defence Careers website, or feel free to scan this barcode and we will make sure that a recruiter will reach out to you and answer any questions. So thank you for listening to us today. That concludes our presentation, and we're more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
If you don't feel comfortable turning on your microphone, you're more than welcome to put your questions in the chat box for the Defence team.
I'll just leave the screen up for a bit longer.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And like no question's a silly question, and there's so much to the process, and and we want to demystify what it means to be in the military and have a STEM career. And I also want you to think about not letting your degree define you or put you in a box. Your qualification from university is one of your most valuable tools that just opens up a whole realm of opportunities.
Barb, do we need to be a New Zealand citizen to apply?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So if you are an international student here studying on a student visa, unfortunately, you are not eligible to apply at this time. If you get to having permanent residence, you can apply, and you must be eligible to gain New Zealand citizenship. So if you're sitting in permanent residence status, absolutely you can apply to come and join us. How many grads do we take on a year? So the Army, Navy and Air Force, Army has one big intake at the start of the year. So that can be between 80 and 90 officers. Air Force and Navy have 2 officer intakes, one in January and one in July. And those numbers vary, but round about between 30 and 40 officers in each of those intakes twice a year.
I'll just add on to that, not every role that you apply for within defence has to have a tertiary degree. The ones we did talk about before, if you've got an engineering background, you have to have a degree or gaining a degree. If you want to join as a psychologist or an environmental health officer, you have to come with the relevant tertiary degree. So it just depends on the role that you want to come in as and what the educational requirement is. But you'd have to ask us by singular role as opposed to generic grads. I wouldn't have a clue. I'm sure Barb wouldn't with those kind of details either. Can you see that question, Barb?
Oh, yeah. So is there an opportunity to grow and expand into different sectors? Actually, yes. And one of the things is we've got some people who just want to come in first and foremost as a soldier, as a sailor, as an airman, and do some recruit training, do some hands-on tech trades. And then there are two pathways. One is you come in as a non-commissioned officer, which is more hands-on techie, and the other is into an officer role where we kind of grow and develop our technicians and support them and oversee the work that they do. So you can come in on the ground and then commission from the ranks into an officer role, or you can come into an officer role right from the start. Now, I have some people with law degrees who are in all three services, but they're not working as lawyers. And at some point, they might like to put their hand up and come across and apply to be a lawyer within the Defence Force. So you can use your degree for a specific role. And as Morgan pointed out, Air Force, Army and Navy are all different in the application process. So if you were to apply for the Army officer role, you don't pick a job, you put your hand up, you go to an officer selection board, and halfway through that year of training, the Army and you have a conversation about where they see you as a good fit. And at that point, you can be someone who then the Army will send away and pay for you to do your study from scratch. If you come to the Army with a qualification and you complete officer training, they then have scholarships whereby they will say, you've done a great job on officer training. We're now going to reimburse you 40K over 4 years to help you pay back your student loan.
And I'll just add to that, Ryan, and I'm not sure if this is down the track of the question you're asking, but just because you join as a role or a trade within defence doesn't mean you're confined to it within your career. So for example, Barb and I, we both have a trade and we're both being trained to do that, but we're working in recruiting and we call that out of branch postings, where you get to do different roles within defence that you would never have actually thought that you would get to do. Barb and I have both been deployed overseas with the Army on a land mission. So, you know, there's a whole bunch of different roles that don't sit within your trade that you might have picked up other skills for, and that might be through your leadership training, that might be through the admin skills that you've picked up, or just through your networking that you've done. You're definitely not confined to a certain trade or role your whole career. There's so much more, and Barb and I could talk about it all day and it's really hard to explain, but yeah, within defence you might have a certain goal, but to get there you've just got to do a bit of your trade training. For Navy you've got to go to sea, that's one of the important things, and then once you've done that then you get to branch out and really explore other areas of defence that don't sit within your service as well.
Good questions. These are really good questions. So probably just timelines. We have really set timelines and we say, give us 6 months to get you through the recruiting process. Doesn't necessarily take that long. So our next officer selection boards for Army, Navy and Air, we're targeting for October. So anyone who's in their final year of study and is looking at maybe a role with us and starting officer training next year, we need you to be on our website and looking to apply now.
So I've just had a question from Sebastian. Could you please give an example of where to start if I wanted to look at cyber security and studying computer science? Depends. It depends what service you want to go for. We've got intelligence or cyber roles within all three services. So first you would kind of need to decide what service and where you would gravitate. And that can be a conversation with some of us from Defence Careers, and we can kind of ask you questions, see where your personality aligns. And then we can look at whether you want to go for an officer role, so more of a management oversight, or you want to go into a more technical role. And then we could look at pinpointing the trade that would best suit you. I think IT, comms and signals have 15 different trades across the three services. So we would just need to narrow it down. And some roles, if you have to get a higher security clearance, you might need to go through a selection board to see that you're the right fit as well. But for you, Sebastian, if you were interested, I will put our email into the chat box, and we can give you a call and just delve really into where you would best be suited, or just have a chat to elaborate on. But computer science is a very sought after degree, and all three services would be wanting that type of skill set as well. But feel free to add anything on.
Yeah, no, and absolutely. And if you were to take your computer skills and look at an intelligence role, so we send our intelligence officers over to Melbourne. So you complete officer training. So we upskill you into the systems and the platforms we have and what it means to work in cybersecurity in that kind of space.
Thought I'd ask a question that I've been seeing a lot over the past couple of sessions. When people are applying, what are some things that you guys are would help them stand out on putting their CVs and kind of cover letters?
Like I'll talk to the cover letter, Aaron. This is a really good question. So your processes with us are it's like applying for any job. Okay, so you want to tell us who you are, and your cover letter is your letter of introduction of you to us. So why you want to come and work for the NZDF, what motivates you to take a life of service, if you like, and what service you want to go to and what you know about it. Also, attention to detail, Aaron, in regard to your presentation of your CV, and we look at your academic transcript. So we actually look at the papers that you've done at university and the grades you've acquired. We're kind of looking for that B+ average, but I want to kind of qualify that by saying your academic quals are one thing, and then it's everything else that you bring to the table. So your soft skills, your people skills, your ability to work in a team, your ability to influence others, all those things come into play. And when you prepare for your interview, it's like going for a job interview, be professional, practice interview skills. And I know the careers department at the university, all those things are there. Don't come into an interview cold, because often we're the first interview that you've ever had if you're coming to defence post-uni. So take that opportunity to prepare for an interview, practice interview questions with family, friends. And so just we're not expecting you to have all the answers, and your life experiences come from university. And so we're looking for the person who is involved in university life, might be part of the student exec, might be the sort of person that volunteers and does street donations when they're called for. All those little things are things that we look for. Has that kind of answered the question?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's good to hear just what help the students craft a cover letter, because each company's different, and it's always nice to hear what you guys kind of prefer.
Yeah, and make it really specific to us. That's really important.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot of times. Make it using names and don't just copy and paste the same one to everyone.
Yeah, that's a trap when you get a generic cover letter that you know has gone to several employers. Yeah, it's not very. It's not a good way to start an application with anyone if it's not targeted.
Do you have anything else that that would be kind of eye-catchy around the recruitment process, just for people even coming out of grad and then kind of along those lines? I don't know, that wasn't a very clear question.
Yeah, like fitness is another thing, Aaron. Like, you know, we understand a lot of the university students I talk to, they've had really active at school, you know, they've been in teams and they've gone, a lot of that drops off at university because you actually don't have time and you have different priorities and stuff. So we want you to have a level of fitness. So we want you, if you're really looking at a career with us, to kind of make a commitment to that fitness. So, and we're not GI Joes or superhumans, you know, we want you to be able to run a beat test, and we want you to be able to do some push-ups, and we want you to be able to do some curl-ups. And that's the entry level to come in. But when you look at what we're going to want you to do, we're going to then put a pack on your back, and we're going to march you through hills and forests, and we're going to push you physically. So we're looking for resilience, we're looking for teamwork, and we're looking for motivation and those that can influence and motivate others to succeed.
We're also looking for grads to apply start of 4th year. But if you are 4th year and you want to apply to start once you've graduated, then you need to look at applying within the next month, because we have set cutoff times, because we've got to produce so much information, and we've got a 9-step application process, which is a lot longer than the normal one. And this can take time. You've got to go through an aptitude test, an initial health check, security check. And then if anything kind of raises awareness, then that might take you longer to get. So you're looking at a 3 to 6 month application, but some people just whiz right by and can get through really fast, and some people it does take longer. So we encourage students to start looking 3rd year to apply start of 4th. Or if they want to go for a scholarship, then you can apply 1st semester into uni as well.
Got any more final questions coming through from the chat? There's a few people still here.
Yeah, so if they want to, if anyone wants to email us and talk kind of one-on-one, so the email that Morgan had up, specialists at Defence Careers, that will come straight into our cell. So that will come to Morgan and myself, and we can come back to you. And it's really helpful if you give us a phone number, because it's so much easier for us to pick up the phone and have a chat to you and talk through all your questions that you have.
Cool. Looks like we might have come towards the end of the questions. They got nice and interactive there at the end. Was good. Big thank you to you both, Barb and Morgan. Lots of great information there, which I'm sure the students found really, really helpful. It always surprises me just how many roles and opportunities there are within the Defence Forces too. And I've heard the kind of spiel before, but yeah, opportunities are unlimited pretty much. So thank you very much for your time, folks. And thank you to the students who tuned in.
Thank you too.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Dave.